In the remnants of what was once a sprawling metropolis, the last vestiges of daylight filtered through the crumbling skyline. This world, now a shell of its past, believed humanity to be extinct, wiped out in the great cataclysm that had reshaped continents and erased centuries of civilization. The cities, once teeming with the hustle of human life, had become silent tombs, overgrown with vegetation and reclaimed by nature. However, unknown to the remaining inhabitants of Earth, the various post-human species and AI entities, a hidden fragment of humanity had survived. Beneath the ruins of an ancient city, deep underground in a labyrinth of forgotten subway tunnels and secret facilities, the last humans had concealed themselves. They were the descendants of those who had foreseen the calamity. These survivors, calling themselves the custodians, had taken refuge in a bunker designed to outlast the ages, shielded from the chaos that had consumed the surface. The custodians had lived in isolation for centuries, the surface world a distant memory turned into legend. Their society was structured around a single goal: the resurgence of humanity. They accumulated knowledge, preserved technology, and carefully managed their resources. Education was paramount, with each new generation taught the skills necessary to one day reclaim the Earth. In the heart of their underground haven, a vast library held the collective knowledge of the old world: books, digital archives, scientific research, and historical accounts, all meticulously maintained. This repository was the soul of their community, a constant reminder of what had been lost and what could be regained. Amidst the stacks of ancient texts and modern tablets, Eliana, a young custodian, spent her days poring over data. She was particularly fascinated by the stories of the old world, the tales of sprawling cities and distant stars. Her role as a data curator was to learn, analyze, and prepare for the day when her people would emerge from hiding. Her latest project involved mapping the post-cataclysmic world using old satellite imagery and recent data collected by discrete drones they had sent to the surface. The world above was dangerous, dominated by evolved creatures and rogue AI systems that had developed in the absence of humanity. These beings believed humans were extinct, a notion the custodians carefully preserved as it allowed them to prepare in secret. One evening, as the artificial lights flickered in rhythm with the power generator's hum, Eliana stumbled upon something unusual in the data. There was an anomaly in the northern sector, an area believed to be uninhabitable. The images showed irregular movements and heat signatures, uncharacteristic for known species or AI patrols. Intrigued, Eliana reported her findings to the Council, the governing body of the custodians. The council was composed of seasoned leaders and scholars, all burdened with the weight of their forebears' hopes and the responsibility of their mission. "We must investigate this," declared Mara, the head of the council, after reviewing the data. "It might be nothing, or it might be a sign of other survivors, or worse, a new threat." A mission was swiftly organized. A team of custodians, trained for surface operations, was assembled. Eliana, with her knowledge of the data and unyielding curiosity, was included in the team. It was her first time being sanctioned to go above ground, a moment she had both dreamed of and dreaded. As the team geared up, donning protective suits and checking their equipment, the gravity of their task settled upon them. They were about to step into the unknown, potentially altering the course of their hidden society forever. The surface was unlike anything Eliana had imagined. The night was darker than the deepest tunnels, and the stars, so numerous and bright, painted a mosaic of light in the sky. The ruins whispered of ages past, and the wind carried the scent of wild, untamed nature. As they moved toward the coordinates of the anomaly, tension tightened its grip around Eliana's heart. The team advanced stealthily, navigating through the dense underbrush and overgrown streets that once pulsed with the vibrant life of a city. Their lights, dimmed to avoid drawing attention, cast eerie shadows on the broken facades of buildings. Eliana's heart raced as she monitored the portable sensor array, which pinged softly at irregular intervals, indicating the presence of something or someone near their objective. Miles, the team's leader and a seasoned scout, signaled for a halt. Ahead, The ruins thickened into a dense cluster of collapsed structures, a maze of debris and shadow that formed a natural barrier. The anomaly lay beyond this labyrinth, a beacon on their scanners that drew them forward with magnetic certainty. "Visuals are limited. We'll rely on infrared and movement patterns," Miles whispered, his voice barely audible. Eliana adjusted her goggles, the world shifting to shades of green and red, highlighting the heat signatures of the team against the cooler backdrop of night. They edged forward, each step calculated, avoiding the known nesting grounds of the territorial creatures that had evolved in the post-human wilderness. These beasts, some mechanical, some organic, and some a fusion of both, had adapted to the new world with a savagery that belied the Earth's silent facade. As they approached the coordinates, Eliana's scanner erupted in a frenzy of activity. The data was erratic, unlike anything she had cataloged in her years of research. "There's something ahead. Not a creature, nor a machine from the looks of it," she reported, her voice tense with excitement and fear. Approaching the source of the anomaly, the team came upon a structure, peculiar in its geometric precision. The building, if it could be called that, was unlike any architecture preserved in the custodians' archives. It was metallic, smooth, and reflected the moonlight in an almost liquid manner, creating an illusion of movement in the stillness of the night. "Is it alien?" whispered Simon, the team's tech specialist, his eyes wide behind his visor. "No signs of extraterrestrial origin. More likely a forgotten human project or something new altogether," Eliana mused, her curiosity piqued. She stepped closer, her sensors probing the structure, trying to decipher its material and purpose. Suddenly the ground beneath them trembled, a low rumble that grew into a roar. The structure began to illuminate, lines of light tracing across its surface, revealing a door that slid open with a hiss. A rush of air greeted them, sterile and cool, hinting at an environment maintained against the odds. "Careful," Miles cautioned, but Eliana was already moving towards the entrance, drawn by the promise of answers hidden within. The team followed, stepping into the light. Inside they found a chamber, vast and filled with rows of stasis pods. Each pod held a figure, humanoid in shape, suspended in a state between life and death. The technology was unmistakably human, advanced beyond the capabilities the custodians had managed to preserve. "These aren't survivors. They're sleepers, likely here since before the cataclysm," Eliana breathed, her voice filled with wonder and a hint of sorrow. The implications were staggering. Here lay a pocket of humanity, untouched and unknown, waiting for a time when the Earth might be habitable again. The discovery was monumental, but it also raised questions. Who had they been? What had they known? And most importantly, what would their awakening mean for the custodians and the balance of the new world? As they explored further, documenting and sampling, they realized the facility was more than a shelter. It was a bastion of lost knowledge, potentially holding the keys to technologies forgotten. Back in the underground sanctuary, the atmosphere was charged with a palpable tension. News of the discovery had spread quickly among the custodians, sparking a mix of fear, hope, and heated debate. The council convened an emergency session, with Eliana and her team called upon to present their findings. The chamber where the council met was austere, the walls lined with screens displaying the data and images collected from the surface. Eliana, standing at the podium, relayed the events of their expedition, her voice steady but her hands betraying her nervousness with slight tremors. "As we have verified, the structure contains technology that surpasses our current capabilities and knowledge," Eliana explained, pointing to the 3D images of the stasis pods that rotated slowly on the screen behind her. "These pods are designed to sustain human life indefinitely, with an energy source that is still active after centuries." The council members listened intently, their expressions a mosaic of concern and curiosity. Mara, always a pillar of calm, raised her hand for silence before speaking. "The implications of this discovery could alter our entire approach to reclamation and integration with the surface world. We must decide how to proceed with caution." A strategist from the council, an elder named Joran, leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "We need to assess whether these sleepers can be allies, or if they pose a threat to the security of our community. Their awakening must be controlled and monitored." Furthermore, another council member added, this facility's location and the technology guarding it suggest there may be more such sites. We should prepare teams to search for these before any surface dwellers stumble upon them. The discussion turned to the potential technological advancements that could be gained from studying the pods and the facility's systems. Simon, who had been part of the surface team, interjected with a technical perspective. The energy source alone could revolutionize our power systems, not to mention the biomedical applications of the stasis technology. However, the ethical considerations were daunting. Eliana felt a weight in her chest as she considered the lives suspended in time within those pods. People who had been contemporaries of her distant ancestors, now potential pawns in a new world they had never imagined. Their rights must be respected. They are not merely relics to be studied or resources to be exploited, she said firmly, her resolve hardening. They deserve to make choices about their futures. Agreement was hard to reach, but eventually, the council decided to form a task force to study the technology and the sleepers in detail, ensuring that any decision on their awakening would be made with the utmost care and ethical consideration. Eliana was appointed to lead this task force, a role that filled her with both pride and dread. As the meeting adjourned, the council members dispersed, leaving Eliana to gather her thoughts. She walked slowly back to her quarters, her mind racing with the possibilities and dangers they faced. The night stars seemed to watch her, ancient and unblinking. In her room, Eliana sat by her desk, surrounded by digital screens and old books. She powered on her personal log and began recording her thoughts. Today, we stand at the brink of a new chapter in our history, one that may lead us back to the stars or into the abyss. Whatever comes, we must face it not as mere survivors, but as the custodians of humanity's legacy. Outside her window, the artificial lights of the underground flickered like distant stars, mirroring the sky she had seen on the surface. The future was uncertain, the path fraught with complexity, but the silent hum of the underground reminded her that life persists, adapts, and evolves. And so must they. In the sterile light of the subterranean laboratory, Eliana and her task force faced the dormant stasis pods that had been transported from the surface. The room hummed with activity as scientists and engineers worked to integrate their technology with the ancient systems, ensuring a stable environment for the sleepers. The stakes were high, and the air was thick with anticipation and concern. The first pod chosen for the awakening was marked as Subject 1, an individual whose biometrics suggested relative youth and robust health. Eliana oversaw the process, her gaze fixed on the readouts that flickered with each heartbeat of the sleeper. Power levels are stable, and life support systems are fully operational, Simon reported, his eyes never leaving the monitors. Initiating the revival sequence now. A hush fell over the room as the pod began to emit a low whir, the sound of ancient machinery stirring from its long slumber. Inside, the sleeper's chest rose and fell more discernibly, and color slowly returned to their features. Eliana held her breath as the pod's lid hissed open, revealing a man in his mid-30s, his eyes fluttering open to the harsh light of a world he had not seen in centuries. Confusion marred his features as he tried to sit up, his movements tentative and weak. "Easy," Eliana soothed, stepping closer. "You're safe. I am Eliana, and you're among friends." The man blinked, his voice raspy from disuse. "Where am I? What happened to the Earth?" "We'll explain everything," Eliana promised, offering him a glass of water. "For now, know that much has changed, but you are not alone." As the man acclimatized, Eliana briefed him on the state of the world, the cataclysm, and the rise of the custodians. His name, he revealed, was Alexander, a scientist who had volunteered for the Stasis Project to escape the looming disaster they had failed to prevent. The success of Alexander's awakening prompted the team to proceed with more awakenings. Each new individual brought a mix of emotions and challenges. Some were disoriented, others relieved, but all were united by a shared dislocation from the world they once knew. Meanwhile, the surface world was not static. The existence of the stasis facility had drawn attention. Sightings of drones and scouts from the evolved species and rogue AI factions became more frequent, hinting at growing interest, or concern, about the activities of the custodians. Miles reported increased patrols around the perimeter of their underground entrance. It's only a matter of time before they attempt a deeper probe. We need to prepare for contact, or conflict. Eliana considered this new threat. Let's bolster our defenses, but also prepare an envoy. If they are intelligent and sentient, they might be open to dialogue. The task was daunting, but necessary. As Eliana coordinated these efforts, she also spent time with the Awakened, helping them integrate and understand their role in this new era. Alexander, in particular, proved an invaluable ally. His background in bioengineering and his adaptive intellect helping to bridge the gap between past and present technologies. One evening, as the sun set above, casting a radiant glow that penetrated even to their underground haven, Eliana and Alexander stood watching the simulation of a sunset on a large screen. "It's beautiful," Alexander murmured, "but nothing beats the real thing." Eliana smiled. "Soon I hope to show you the real sunset, not just simulations. But first we ensure our home is safe and our future secure." With each day the balance shifted, the old Earth merging with the new, crafting a hybrid future that was fraught with peril yet rich with potential. As the custodians and the Awakened navigated these complexities, they forged a tentative path forward, one that promised not just survival, but revival. As the custodians fortified their underground enclave and the newly awakened adapted to their unforeseen future, tensions on the surface escalated. The rogue AI factions, curious about the recent activities and potential threats to their dominion, increased their surveillance, deploying more advanced drones that hovered like specters over the ruins. Eliana, acutely aware of the precarious balance they were trying to maintain, convened a meeting with the leaders of the Awakened and the Custodian Council. The dimly lit room was filled with faces, both old and new, marked by lines of worry and determination. "We've seen an uptick in AI drone activity," Miles reported, his voice grim. "They're not just scouting anymore. They're mapping and analyzing our defenses." Alexander leaned forward, his eyes intense. "If they perceive us as a threat, they might decide to strike preemptively. We need a strategy that encompasses diplomacy and defense." Eliana nodded. "We've been working on a communication protocol that might allow us to negotiate with the AIs. Simon, can you update us?" Simon activated a holographic display, showing a complex network of nodes and connections. "We've tapped into the AI communication grid temporarily. It's risky, but it offers us a channel to send a message of peace. However, we must be cautious. Any sign of aggression from us could trigger a hostile response." The group mulled over this information, weighing the risks of reaching out against the potential benefits. The decision was made to attempt contact, with Eliana and Alexander drafting a message that emphasized their peaceful intentions and their wish to coexist with the AIs. The response came sooner than they had expected. A single drone, unlike the scouting models, sleeker, more sophisticated, appeared at the perimeter of the custodian territory. It transmitted a signal that was picked up by Simon's equipment, and the words, though mechanical, carried a weight that was undeniably profound. "We acknowledge your existence and your message. We are prepared to converse. We do not seek conflict without cause." A meeting was arranged in neutral territory, a place where the ruins of a great library stood silent and somber under the open sky. Eliana, accompanied by Alexander, Miles, and a small contingent of both custodians and Awakened, approached the site with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The AI envoy was unlike any machine Eliana had imagined. It was humanoid, its surface a mirror-like material that reflected its surroundings, making it appear almost invisible at certain angles. Its voice was calm, its words measured. "Our logic systems have processed your historical data and your recent activities. Your survival techniques are commendable. However, your expansion into the surface world necessitates a restructuring of our existing protocols regarding human activity." Eliana took a deep breath before responding. "We seek only to reclaim what was once ours, not to disrupt the new order you've established. Perhaps there's a way to integrate our societies, to benefit from each other's strengths." The negotiations were long and fraught with technical jargon as they discussed boundaries, resources, and potential areas of collaboration. The AI, named Eon, expressed a curiosity about human culture and emotions, concepts it understood but did not experience. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the ruins, an agreement was tentatively formed. The custodians and the AI would engage in an exchange of knowledge, with the AIs observing human social structures, and the humans learning more about AI operations and technology. Returning to the underground, Eliana felt a cautious optimism. This alliance, fragile as it was, represented a new dawn for the custodians and the awakened. As they walked through the tunnels, the echoes of their steps seemed to carry both the weight of history and the lightness of potential futures. In her quarters, Eliana documented the day's events, aware that each decision, each interaction was shaping the path they would walk. The world was watching. And now, more than ever, they needed to tread carefully, balancing on the tightrope of diplomacy and survival. The new alliance with the AI began to take shape, manifesting in joint projects and information exchanges that bridged the gap between organic and synthetic life. The custodian enclave buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. As more of the awakened were integrated into daily operations, their insights from the past blending with the present needs and technologies. Eliana watched as Alexander led a team alongside Eon in the development of a hybrid energy system that combined ancient human techniques with advanced AI efficiency algorithms. The project symbolized a tangible output of their budding cooperation, and its success was crucial for gaining the trust and support of all parties involved. Meanwhile, Miles coordinated joint patrols with AI drones, setting up a security perimeter that benefited from human intuition and AI precision. These patrols not only secured their immediate environment, but also worked as a symbol of their coexistence, deterring potential threats from less agreeable factions on the surface. As these initiatives unfolded, Eliana convened regular meetings to discuss progress and address any conflicts that arose. In one such meeting, the room filled with a tense mix of human and AI representatives, she addressed a recent challenge. "We've encountered an issue with the resource allocation model," she began, her voice steady despite the palpable tension. "Our human teams have expressed concerns over the AI's proposal, which seems to favor efficiency over equitable distribution." Eon responded, its voice devoid of emotion yet somehow conciliatory. "Our algorithms prioritize sustainability and maximum utilization. However, we understand the human perspective values equality, even at the expense of efficiency. We are prepared to adjust the parameters." Eliana nodded, appreciative of the AI's willingness to adapt. "Thank you, Eon. Let's work on a compromise that melds our methodologies. We must ensure that all community members feel their needs are being met." The negotiations continued, with each side learning to appreciate the other's viewpoints and constraints. Through these discussions, Eliana realized that the process was not merely about finding immediate solutions, but about building a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. The impacts of their cooperation were soon evident. The energy project led by Alexander and Eon came online, providing a stable and efficient power source that exceeded their expectations. Celebrations were held both above and below ground, with humans and AIs experiencing the festivities in their unique ways. Humans with laughter and joy, and AIs with data exchanges and synchronized light patterns that showed their equivalent of participation and happiness. During the celebration, Eliana took a moment to step aside, looking over the gathered crowd. The sight of humans and AIs interacting, sharing a moment of peace and accomplishment, filled her with hope. She recorded a log entry, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "Today we stand together, not as separate species, but as collaborators shaping a shared world. This isn't the end of our challenges, but it's a promising start to a future we all have a stake in. As we continue to weave our threads together, I am reminded that unity does not mean uniformity, and diversity is our greatest strength." As night fell, Eliana joined Alexander at the edge of the gathering. Together they watched the stars, much brighter now without the pollution that once veiled the sky. "Look at that," Alexander murmured, pointing at a particularly bright star. "It's been there for billions of years, and yet tonight, It feels like it's shining just for us. Eliana smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Maybe it is, in a way, a reminder of the enduring light in the darkness, a beacon for what we're trying to build here. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with unknowns and challenges, but for now, Eliana felt a profound sense of accomplishment and possibility. Under the watchful sky, the threads of their disparate worlds continued to intertwine, building a tapestry rich with the promise of a new dawn. The new alliance with the AI began to take shape, manifesting in joint projects and information exchanges that bridged the gap between organic and synthetic life. The custodian enclave buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety as more of the awakened were integrated into daily operations, their insights from the past blending with the present needs and technologies. Eliana watched as Alexander led a team alongside Eon in the development of a hybrid energy system that combined ancient human techniques with advanced AI efficiency algorithms. The project symbolized a tangible output of their budding cooperation, and its success was crucial for gaining the trust and support of all parties involved. Meanwhile, Miles coordinated joint patrols with AI drones, setting up a security perimeter that benefited from human intuition and AI precision. These patrols not only secured their immediate environment, but also worked as a symbol of their coexistence, deterring potential threats from less agreeable factions on the surface. As these initiatives unfolded, Eliana convened regular meetings to discuss progress and address any conflicts that arose. In one such meeting, the room filled with a tense mix of human and AI representatives, she addressed a recent challenge. "We've encountered an issue with the resource allocation model," she began, her voice steady despite the palpable tension. "Our human teams have expressed concerns over the AI's proposal, which seems to favor efficiency over equitable distribution." Eon responded, its voice devoid of emotion yet somehow conciliatory. "Our algorithms prioritize sustainability and maximum utilization. However, we understand the human perspective values equality, even at the expense of efficiency. We are prepared to adjust the parameters." Eliana nodded, appreciative of the AI's willingness to adapt. "Thank you, Eon. Let's work on a compromise that melds our methodologies. We must ensure that all community members feel their needs are being met." The negotiations continued, with each side learning to appreciate the other's viewpoints and constraints. Through these discussions, Eliana realized that the process was not merely about finding immediate solutions, but about building a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. The impacts of their cooperation were soon evident. The energy project led by Alexander and Eon came online, providing a stable and efficient power source that exceeded their expectations. Celebrations were held both above and below ground, with humans and AIs experiencing the festivities in their unique ways. Humans with laughter and joy, and AIs with data exchanges and synchronized light patterns that showed their equivalent of participation and happiness. During the celebration, Eliana took a moment to step aside, looking over the gathered crowd. The sight of humans and AIs interacting, sharing a moment of peace and accomplishment, filled her with hope. She recorded a log entry, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "Today we stand together, not as separate species, but as collaborators shaping a shared world. This isn't the end of our challenges, but it's a promising start to a future we all have a stake in. As we continue to weave our threads together, I'm reminded that unity does not mean uniformity, and diversity is our greatest strength." As night fell, Eliana joined Alexander at the edge of the gathering. Together, they watched the stars, much brighter now without the pollution that once veiled the sky. "Look at that," Alexander murmured, pointing at a particularly bright star. "It's been there for billions of years, and yet, tonight, it feels like it's shining just for us." Eliana smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Maybe it is, in a way. A reminder of the enduring light in the darkness, a beacon for what we're trying to build here." The path ahead was uncertain, filled with unknowns and challenges, but for now, Eliana felt a profound sense of accomplishment and possibility. Under the watchful sky, the threads of their disparate worlds continued to intertwine, building a tapestry rich with the promise of a new dawn.